Okay, let's review again the last Mishnah in Perek. Perek Mishnah Yud Aleph. So again, the general idea over here is if you take Truma from Dissimilar. Perek Mishnah Yud Aleph. Last Mishnah. Yes. So again, the general idea in this Mishnah is that when you're taking Truma from two dissimilar sources of produce, so either one that has that they don't both for sure have the same level of obligation, so then it's going to depend. Tyre mina demai al demai. If both of your Tyre mina demai al demai. So if you take Truma from one thing that's demai on something else that's demai, so you have a potential problem. Perhaps one of the two, the person you bought it from did properly separate Trumas and Meisers, and the other he did not. So Truma v'yachzer v'yitri. So the din of the Mishnah is what you gave the Kohen, he gets to keep, because maybe it's good Truma. But you got to do it again because maybe the stuff you gave him wasn't actually obligated in Truma. So the stuff you were trying to fix didn't get fixed.
I don't understand that. If it's doubtful, what's wrong with giving extra?
Well, the problem is you can only give Truma from something that has not been fixed for something else that has not been fixed. So I have two demais. So maybe the one I took as Truma was already taken off Truma, and the one I was giving it for was not.
So it's really not holy. So
it would really not be Truma, right? So I have to do it again. Maybe it is Truma, and then the Kohen can keep it. Maybe it's not, and the Kohen can still keep it. It's just a random present, and I'll have to do it again. So that's the, or I'll have to, right. Minavadai ala demai, Truma. So what about the other way? Let's say I have demai, and I have stuff I know for sure Truma was not taken off of. So I take off Truma from there, and I give it to the Kohen. So now we have a bigger problem. Because if the Demai needed Truma, so good. What I took off is Truma, and the Kohen can eat it. If the Demai didn't need Truma, so then I took off stuff from something that had a certain obligation to give Truma, and I gave it to a Kohen, but it wasn't Truma, because what I was trying to do didn't work, and the Kohen has stuff now, that's Tevel, that needs Truma and Meiser taken off of itself. So there,
on his share,
right, because what the Kohen got as Truma really wasn't Truma. So it's Truma, he gets to keep it, but just the Kohen can't eat it unless he separates Trumas and Meisers on that because he doesn't know where it came from. Okay, Perek Vav. Hamakabel Sada mi Yisrael. If someone accepts a field from another Jew, and we make a deal, we'll split whatever grows, I'll give you whatever percentage of what the field produces. Or Minoivik Chavim, or from a non-Jew, Uminakusi, or from a Kusi, who for this Mishnah really make no difference because Jews and non-Jews are all the same. So the problem over here is I don't want to have to Meiser your half. The worker doesn't want to have to give Meiser on the other half of the produce before he pays up whatever percentage he has to give.
Isn't a Kuti a suffix Jew?
Yeah, but for this halacha it doesn't matter because Jews and non-Jews are the same. Okay. So Kusi are just here because we're gonna discuss them later.
Okay.
So what you do is Yechalik Lifneim, you just split it. So you say, listen, the field produced whatever, 100 bushels. I'll take my share, you take your share. So I'm not giving you of my share, you're not giving me of your share. We're just taking what we're each entitled to. HaChoicher Sadam Yisrael. However, a chocher is a bit worse. A chocher makes not the deal is not that I'll give you a certain percentage. The deal is I guarantee you a certain return on your field. You give me your field, I'll give you 50 bushels of wheat, no matter what. If the field does very well, good for me. If it doesn't do so well, it's better for you. So there, you have to be Tyre v'Neisli. You got to take off Truma before you give it to him because it's your produce, and you just owe him a certain amount of produce as your rent. But we're lenient and we don't make you take off Meiser, because that would be too much of an expense for the worker. Rabbi Yehuda said, Amasai, when is that? This leniency is only if you're giving him from what actually grew in the field. Then we're willing to see it like kind of like it's the owner of the field's produce. If you give him from a different field or a different type of produce, then it's straight, you're paying what you owe him with produce. And then, of course, you'd have to take off Meiser before you can give him produce. You can't use the Meiser in your payment. Mishnah Beis. So here, you accept the field from a guy to give him a portion of the produce. Again, the first Tana says it's no different. Meiser v'nosno, you got to take off Meiser. Just take off Meiser. You have to take off Meiser. Sorry, it is different. Here we make you take off Meiser first, and we give, and only then can you pay him up. And they explained the reason why we did this is because we want to increase Jewish ownership of properties in Eretz Yisrael. So we make it more expensive if the property is owned by a non-Jew for the worker. So people are going to be more willing to work for Jews, and it'll make it harder for non-Jews to own land, and more likely that they'll be willing to sell it. And Rabbi Yehuda says, "Afa makabel sadeh avaisav min oivik echavim." Even if someone who accepts a field that had previously belonged to his family, it was an ancestral field, and it now is in the property of a guy, so he has the same din. Meiser v'noisen lohida. If he's accepting to work this field that was traditionally in his family, he would have to take off Meiser before he pays up whatever it is he agreed to pay this non-Jew as his rent. Mishnah Gimel.
And that's not a profit sharing. It's a fixed. Is that a case?
Right. It's a case of Chokr is a fixed amount. Mishnah Gimel. Kohen v'Levi. Let's say you have a Kohen or a Levi. Shekibul Sadam Yisrael. They're the worker. The field is owned by a Jew. So now the Kohen and Levi obviously have a greater interest in the Truma and Meisers than the Yisrael does. So still, Kashem Shecholkin B'chulin, Kacholkin B'Truma, they split everything equally. The Kohen gets half the Truma and he, obviously keep it for himself. Yisrael gets the other half and he can give it to whoever he wants. And Belazar Emer no. Afa Meiser Shalhem, the Kohen or Levi gets the Meiser, Shal Minas Kinbo. It's an obvious understanding that the Kohen and Levi want that they should get the Meisers. Mishnah Daled. What about the other way? Yisrael shekibul mikayin. Let's say the owner of the field is a Kohen of a Kohen or a Levi, and the worker is a Yisrael. HaMeiser is l'bayla. So the first opinion is no, the Meiser that the owners keep because they're the Kohen and Levi. He's going to keep it for himself. B'shmol Emer hakarachti. Similar, if you have a guy who lives out in the village, shekibul sadam Yerushalmi, who accepts to work a field that belongs to someone who lives in Yerushalayim. So Meiser Sheni Shal Yerushalmi, you have the same understanding that the person who lives in Yerushalayim wants the Meiser Sheni because he lives there. You can only eat it there. The guy lives in a random village. It's not as valuable for him. So there's an obvious understanding that it would go to the one who lives in Yerushalayim. But no. Meiser Sheni is not worthless to someone who lives in a village in Eretz Yisrael. He always has the ability of taking it and going and eating it in Eretz Yisrael. So they would split the Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim. I'm sorry. So they would split the Meiser Sheni. The guy who lives in Yerushalayim would get half of it. The guy who lives they split it with the same proportion that they're splitting the rest of the field. And yeah, it's a little bit more valuable for the person who lives in Yerushalayim anyway. But it's not like Meiser that the Yisrael can't eat it at all. So therefore, there's no understanding that I'm going to obviously give all the Meiser Sheni to the one who lives in Yerushalayim.
Let's back up. The previous part was saying that the workers are a Levi and a Kohen. The point is being, I have the option of giving it to a different Kohen.
Right.
Okay, but basically they're working, so you should be giving it to the local.
Well, it's a question. Quick question. Do they have a automatic? Let's say I have a grandson who's a Kohen, right? So can I give it to him? So that would be depending on whether there's an understanding that it's part of my rental agreement that you get it, or if no, and then I can do whatever I want with it.
But we're talking about workers. So
Yeah, we're talking about workers.
it's just workers there.
Sorry.
We're saying we should give it to the Kohen worker first.
No, we're saying that there's there's dispute over here. Is there a built-in understanding that when I agree to work for you, it's understood that I'm going to get that benefit?
Right. And what was the answer?
It was a dispute.
It was a dispute. All right.
Of course.